they're racing. Nature Strip wasn't that flash away on the inside.
Nature Strip, he's a beast.
He's a force of nature today.
That speed, that power that Nature Strip has, it's like a train.
Nature Strip absolutely destroys his rivals. He's been crowned the world's best sprinter.
He's polarising for punters.
He's been hated by the crowd, he's been loved by the crowd.
You love him or hate him, today we love him.
He was just maybe like any young superstar footballer or young athlete, wanting to go and do everything fast.
When he sets his sight on something, he wants to do it. He doesn't just do it slowly, he does it quick.
You know, the poor old jockey that was riding him at the time when he was young, he just was holding on, just going, well, I can't fight this.
He was a flying machine without the maturity to be able to control him.
He was just going very hard in his races and just having nothing for the end.
That's now his second Group 1 fail. Both times he's straightened up and looked to the winner and been swallowed up.
So many horses have potential, and that's the frustrating thing. You see it on the training tracks, you see it in the trials, but come race day, for whatever reason, they let themselves down.
Have a look at a horse like Nature Strip. Has issues with other trainers. They hadn't really figured him out yet.
First trainer was Mr. Smearden. He then went to Robert Hickman on his way to John Sadler, from there to Darren Weirs.
We have an industry where there's, say, 30,000 plus horses being trained right now in Australia. There's only 60 odd Group 1 races and high prestige races. You can see it's a very small percentage of horses that make it to the top. Obviously, to make it to the top is where the money is. Well, folks, the Everest is the greatest 1,200 metre horse race in the world.
As soon as I saw the race run for the first time, I said, we need to change our model. We need to get some sprinters because this is what people are talking about.
For a horse to win it, though, I believe it needs three things. Good owners, a good trainer, and of course, you need a good jockey.
The goal for Nature Strip is obviously to win this Everest.
You walk down the street and you talk about Winx or Black Caviar. People that aren't racing people know these names. That's what makes a great horse. It captures the interests of the nation.
Obviously, a young kid coming over from New Zealand, seeing Chris do so well was my goal and dream to obviously try and ride for him.
Chris came to Australia with nothing, maxed out something like 2 or 3 credit cards.
I wanted to come to Australia and train.
Here's a guy who was brave enough to pack up his bags and go to Australia with not too much behind him other than his craft.
And through his own process and through his hard work, has built an empire.
Small steps took me to high places.
When I first met Chris was when I first moved over to Sydney. He was obviously the powerhouse stable that he was.
I see James as another brilliant Kiwi.
He'll be riding Nature Strip at 59 kilos. Naturally, he'd be 79. Not only does he have to waste to ride that weight, he's got to control a 550 kilogram horse. He might have been an All Black if he was normal sized.
James came here as a good rider, but we sort of just knew him as this young Kiwi kid who had, you know, some pretty lofty goals. Chris was the same, but they had to prove it here. Chris's biggest success, in my opinion, is how he handled Winx.
An Australian icon, the greatest of all time. Winx wins a third.
The pressure of the nation on you when we all expected a win.
That last race, she captured the world's imagination, not just racing followers, not just sporting fans.
The year Hartnell raced Winx in the Cox Plate was built to be the match race of the century.
Wakey, wakey, Winx, you've got a legitimate contender for the Cox Plate.
Hartnell, the horse I was riding for Godolphin, was in the best career form he could possibly be. He was a strong, mature gelding at the time, and come Cox Plate time, about the 1,200 metre mark, that was very short-lived.
Hartnell's hit the front, Winx is going with him, and they've turned it on.
The first thing I looked across, I seen this white bridle of Chris Waller's. There was a few words exchanged between me and Huey. I said, oh, come on, mate. And he just went, and she was off.
Tall Winks in the straight, 4-5 lengths in front of Hartnell. A good battle going on for the Miners, but this is a blitz. It's a Winks blitz, 2 in a row, and she joins the all-time greats of the turf.
I just couldn't believe it. I needed a tow rope. That was how good she was.
Obviously, we've been fortunate enough to be dealing with a horse like Winks. She just didn't win 33 odd races in a row because she was a good horse. She overcame all the little things that a good horse might struggle to overcome.
I think champion trainer Chris Waller will be rubbing his hands with glee because he's picked up one of the most exciting sprinters in the land.
I was first involved with Nature Strip probably 18 months ago.
My first impressions was him just a complete moron at the time because he went so hard and he was so hard. He was such a hard-going horse.
Seeing this horse that runs really fast, I, like everybody else, when you don't train the horse, say, oh, how good is he?
Into the straight, Nature Strip moves up on the outside. Gee, it's keen.
He was a ready-made racehorse when Chris got him, and when I started riding him, he was a very established sort of sprinter.
I knew we've got a good horse. Half the job done. Second half is probably not going to be as easy, knowing that he's reached this top grade and we've now got to try and get him up to A grade.
So the first ride I had on Nature Strip was the Galaxy.
One Galaxy, the light is on.
Jumping out of the stalls, it does happen very quick. You've got to be so ready and it's so hard to control, and an animal that's just ready to rock and roll.
And they're racing.
The first time I jumped out of the stalls was probably the biggest buzz I got at that time. I was 14 and I remember coming back and saying to Mum and Dad, holy hell, just let me go, let me get out there and compete.
And Jungle Edge jump well, so did Red Zealand.
Being a Galaxy, we thought there'd be a lot of speed, so we could try and ride him a little bit conservatively in terms of maybe third, fourth, and seeing if he could finish off.
The 3-year-old baller gets about a half in front. Nature Strip's mustering now.
That idea didn't sit too well with Nature Strip and ended up off and gone.
Into the straight, Nature Strip swings 2 lengths clear.
You're thinking 100 metres ahead of before you even do it. I think that's where the good jockeys actually can anticipate what's going to happen and make it happen when they want it to happen. With Nature Strip, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's just straight to the front and get going.
But Nature Strip 3 lengths clear from Easy and Parada.
In for the fight, he's getting tired. He's almost walking to the line. Parada not in view, here he comes.
To ride a horse like Nature Strip, his running style is just to go out there hard and break their heart. And there's no such thing as an easy win with him because he's done it all the hard way.
Photo finish, Nature Strip and Parada.
Oh, gee whiz. Photo's not convincing just yet. We'll come back with more.
It was the barest of margins. I think it was the closest margin I've ever won a race.
I'm hearing Nature Strip's won it, but
He beat a very good horse that day in Polarizing.
Yeah, full credit to the teams, where he's come from and where he is now. Everybody's had to go out training him, and look, I'd probably get the accolade for winning the Group 1 with him, but there's been a lot of hard work going to him through the years.
Ever since I first sat on him, he just felt it brilliant, and I knew he was a good sprinter. Things don't really go his way, and he makes it hard for himself.
From then on, stamped himself as a really good sprinter, but could he run 1200 because everyone thought he was just a 1,000-metre horse.
Nature Strip is a 1,000-metre speed machine in many people's eyes, so if they're going to win the Everest, they need to turn him into a 1,200-metre horse.
Favourite Nature Strip just ahead of Osborne Bulls. Right to run. Racing in the 10,000, White Moss and I'm the Ripper both began quickly. Nature Strip has missed the start. He's a long way back out very wide. He goes up to about 6th place. He now passing out back Barbie Champagne Cuddles. Dollar for dollar just in front from Nature Strip, the Bostonian. Driving through the Bostonian. The Bostonian's won the 10,000 from Osborne Bulls, who's flashed home the run second. Third, Dollar for dollar, followed by Nature Strip out back.
The feelings after crossing the line on a horse like Nature Strip is there's so many mixed emotions because he has, let's be fair, he's been hated by the crowd, he's been loved by the crowd, so he can throw in a shocker from time to time. It's like a team having so much potential, but then they'd give away 10 penalties and just frustrate the hell out of you, not live up to it. You know, he was the one that had so much ability, but he'd do so many stupid things wrong that he'd never be able to let himself be as good as what he is.
Two further back to Nature Strip, who's really travelling strongly in third position. McDonald can't hold Nature Strip.
He's a horse that if there was anything that annoyed him before the race, if he just had a little bee in his bonnet, he didn't want to be there.
Nature Strip's come off the bridle, and Rizzo makes it 3 in a row in the Concord. Nature Strip beat himself way too keen.
Where there's high pressure all the way, he's been found wanting.
Love and hate relationship with Nature Strip is he can throw in a performance where he's expected to win at the short price favourite that he's could run second or third.
Stand by, signal. Gates are back and racing. Winter Bright, well, missed it by 2 or 3 lengths. Nature Strip away quite well.
And that's where he's become an enigma, because when he wins when the market and all the punters believe he can't win.
Nature Strip in front. It's Nature Strip from Miss Leonidas. Then came Eduardo Fardana. Nature Strip needs the line. It's getting out there. Nature Strip has done it from Miss Leonidas, photo third.
And then he doesn't win sometimes when we all expect him to win. I'm sure owners and jockeys and trainers also get annoyed too, because there's that hype around their horse. So it's not only letting down their team, but letting down all the punters as well.
You love him or hate him, and I've been in both camps, but today we love him.
Oh, I reckon that must give you a lot of satisfaction. For some reason, there's always a lot of aggro towards this horse from the punters, but he's a ripper.
No, he's a popular horse, and we seem to get more criticism with him than we ever got with another certain horse that was probably our last Group 1 winner here.
Mate, it's a massive thrill, but we've got to take no credit because that Chris Waller's a genius. He's taken the slightest gear change, and it's amazing how he can figure these horses out, and he got it right today. He's so relaxed.
Chris said he was 90% right in Sydney, 95% right today. It'll be 100% right for the Scalacci and 110 right for the Everest.
The Everest is the sexiest horse race in the world.
Most exciting and anticipated race because of the build-up.
It's just unfolding now, isn't it? This extraordinary race each and every year now. It just keeps living up to that hype and building.
It's not only the world's richest race on turf, but it's fast, it's colourful.
And it's a completely different type of event.
Where you combine the glitz and the glamour of Sydney.
Brought together by the best of Australia, the best of the world.
The barrier draw is normally live on the Opera House. That gives it a great theatre.
I mean, we look at this and we go, wow, how do I become one of these lucky 12, 14 one day?
Win a big race at this time of year, you get a slot.
You never know who's coming in and who's going out.
Well, Nature Strip is the first horse entered into the 2020 Everest. It's still 5 months away.
With the prestige comes the money, but then that comes the pressure.
The pressure when those horses go into the barrier, the jockeys will be feeling it. The horse senses that through the silks.
We're competing for huge stakes and we're competing for huge prize money.
Counting down to that big day, October 17, $15 million.
Obviously, I'm well aware when horses go into races, the expectation is high.
There is a lot of expectation on you and you're expected to win, as simple as that.
Yeah, try and avoid those things flashing across the screen that someone's had 100,000 on Winks. I can feel it.
The amount of money we're talking about, billions and billions of dollars, because punters, trainers, owners, they all remember a bad ride.
It's a little bit like playing club footy or playing international rugby. There's a lot more pressure.
What do the All Blacks mean to Kiwis? Well, it's a religion. It's something that New Zealanders all look up to. Someone like Steve Hansen is right up there with the top of the world's greatest coaches of all time. When we were training Winks, I think he could understand the pressure that was involved with training a great racehorse that everybody expected to win.
And she joins the all-time greats of the turf. Winks has won it by 6 lengths.
That's what happens when the All Blacks go on the field. Everybody expects them to win.
There's no avoiding it. But once you acknowledge that's there, then that pressure seems to disappear a bit, and the pressure that doesn't, then you say to yourself, righto, well, what am I going to do when that happens? But it's acknowledging it, I think, allows you to cope with it.
To deal with the expectation and pressure of riding good horses and big races probably comes down to just routine, yeah, for sure, because Each day I go out and ride, whether it's on a Saturday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's the same thing I do every day. I'm very superstitious as well, so routine's huge for me.
So when you've got a horse like Nature Strip running in a big race, or someone like a Winx, you want to actually be kept busy. The last thing you want to do is stand around with the owners saying, oh, we're going to win, and things like that, or have punters come up to you and say, oh, today's the day, we're going to win today. And you actually just want to stay in the zone, be connected with the horse, and next thing the minutes tick over, you're putting the saddle on Nature Strip 20 minutes out before the race. You're checking everything. You're walking back towards where the jockeys meet you, and that's 10 minutes before the race. You talk to the jockey, that's then 8 minutes to the race, and then you put the jockey on, that's sort of 7 or 6 minutes to the race. So time's ticking.
It's probably 5 minutes cantering down to the start is the most peaceful and best thing about the whole exercise, and that's all about just harnessing your horse's energy.
And then the last few minutes you try and just get in your own little comfort zone. I watched the race on my own.
The TAB Everest and the gates are back, they're off, and a great start.
In the first 200 or 300 metres, it's like a blink of an eye.
Nature Strip going forward.
It was my first ride in the Everest. I was on a really good filly called Arcadia Queen.
Big hype, you know, James took the ride, we all thought, here we go. And then he copped the bump, and it was a bit of a disaster.
Finished down the track that particular day.
Nature Strip's biggest weakness is going too fast. I don't think any horse can run flat out for more than 400 metres.
Nature Strip got to the fence, leads by a length on Red Zone.
Nature Strip has to run 1,200 metres in the Everest. We've seen over 1,000 metres. If he goes too quick, he's vulnerable. If he uses up too much energy over 1,000 metres, let alone 1,200 metres, he's vulnerable.
Nature Strip at the 200, two in front to Red Zone. Yes is winding up for the back then to tracking, and Santa Lane, the colt, yes, takes the lead. Santa Lane is charging at the end. Yes, wins the Everest. Beats Santa Lane, tracking third, followed by Nature Strip and Parada.
Every time you get beaten, whether it's run last, fourth, third, second, it lowers the colours.
Coping with the losses, I think, is so important. We don't like letting anybody down. We take it to heart when a horse doesn't win. So I think with owners acknowledging that, a pat on the back after a loss probably means more than a pat on the back after a win.
He's clearly very, very passionate about horses and cares about their welfare. It's not about, winning at all costs and taking the money. It's about the horse first, which I love. I think, in this industry, you've got to care. There's always a welfare for the athlete. I've got a lot of respect for him.
What I got out of Steve from the early days was just that calm demeanour, and there's been so many little things that you wouldn't expect a normal person to say that he will say, and just gives you that bit of confidence.
I think in the time he's finished, he'll be one of the greatest horse trainers that has walked the planet.
Chris Waller has won the Everest. He knows what it takes to win, but this is a different type of horse, Nature Strip.
I think it's fair to say that both Nature Strip, James McDonald and Chris Waller have got unfinished business in the Everest.
I think Chris Waller does love the project horse. I think he does. I mean, trainers will always say, hey, send me a superstar that never breaks down, that doesn't do anything wrong, that, will just win every race, and how good. He really gets to show us how good of a trainer he is when we see horses do things wrong in their races. They come to Chris, and Chris can iron out the creases. He can get to the bottom of their problems, and we get to see their full potential.
When that horse comes to my stable, he or she needs to be able to be a friend, a horse you want to work with, that after a bad day at the races, you still want to work with that horse. You treat a horse well, they'll treat you better.
He's just a great horseman, and his work ethic is just incredible. He has the right people in the right spots, and he looks over everything. He knows what every horse is doing and dealing with animals with the mind of their own. So anything can happen, but it seems to work like clockwork.
This year's TJ Smith Award for Sydney's Premier Trainer is again Chris Waller. And the Bart Cummings Medal winner is Chris Waller.
My achievements have been good. But thanks to one thing, that's a team, but whether it be good mentors, good staff, good jockeys, and involving yourself around good people.
What I love about Chris Waller is, you know, when you have a really good footy player and you send him to a super coach, to a Wayne Bennett, or they go to a Kevin Sheedy, and they just turn them into an unbelievable player. It's just that special touch. It's a gift.
Oh, Chris, I think, is a wizard. He's a good old fielding boy who's done good, isn't he?
With Nature Strip, it's just about harnessing the energy that he's about to unleash, you know, so because he is a ball of muscle and he just goes fast.
For a start, and the gates oh my goodness, Nature Strip dipped and threw James McDonald right over the neck out of the gates.
Nature Strip has to get it right. And to get it right, he has to be fit, he has to have no nerves, he has to be basically the Iceman of racehorses, to be able to run 1,200 metres quicker than any other horse in the race, put pressure on any other horse in the race that they've never been under before, and sustain it.
Horses that get further back have to run incredible times to catch him.
He could easily just leave them in his slipstream. That's how fast he is. But if we do that, we'll burn out.
So the more he relaxes and in those middle stages of the race and the early stages of the race, the better he's going to run.
So we need to change his training around a little bit to make sure that he doesn't overtrain.
He's helped Nature Strip in a lot of ways, and I think the biggest one is taking his time with him. He's never been in a rush.
They've been really, really patient with him, teaching him to relax.
He's just had to come right more mentally than physically because he is a big brute. And now when you see Nature Strip, he's so relaxed. He's a gentle giant that he is.
The difference between the Nature Strip of last year's Everest and the Nature Strip now is that he relaxes in his races.
They're harnessing that speed, aren't they, now, whereas before he was just flat out.
I think that's where Chris is obviously a genius horseman of coaching it out of him, and same with his team.
Here is Nature Strip. Goes up, completes the line for James McDonald.
He's matured into a horse that can be handled, not a uncontrollable beast that we've seen in the past.
Full credit to the stable and the way they've been able to get this horse to settle better.
So when you look at his form, in all the races that he's won, he's gone fantastic, but he just couldn't put it all together.
Right throughout his career, he's had people who either have loved him or they want to knock him and you know, quick to tell you he's not done this and he's not done the next thing.
And the field is set for the Daly Sprint Classic. Stand by for a start, Signal and Racing.
It was the best sprinting field that Australia could assemble, and he didn't have big expectations from all the fans and the crowd, and he just went out there from a wide barrier in a straight line, just galloped like he's never galloped before.
With Nature Strip, Zootori, Rock Magic, the Bostonians trying to find a position in her.
He was on the outside fence, and because of the crowd was all the way down to the 800 metre mark, he actually was in a zone where he was half looking at the crowd the whole way, so he wasn't running through the bridle like he normally does. And I remember he was in such a zone, it felt like slow motion the whole way.
So it's Nature Strip at the 950 leading Zootori.
James makes it look easy. He's got what we call great hands, so he gets a horse to relax. James can get Nature Strip to do what a lot of people would struggle to do, and harnessing that speed, that energy, and then help lift it.
So the front runner is Nature Strip trying to stack up the field at the 600 metres.
And I remember from the 600 metre mark just slipping him a little bit of rein, and he just increased real effortlessly. And I remember like looking up at the big strand and I'm like, oh no, I'm 4 lengths in front here and with 400 metres to go. And I'm thinking I've gone just way too early, and Chris is known as just going to kill me.
Outside fence, then Elise, 300 to go. Nature Strip accelerates. McDonald hasn't flinched yet.
Thankfully, he just kept galloping.
Nature Strip goes for home at the clock tower. 100 metres to go. 4 lengths in front, almost 5. Nature Strip with a devastating performance won the Classic.
He never looked like losing. He was just in the zone, and that's what Nature Strip can do. He's just a devastating sprinter, and again, just had every horse uncomfortable during a race. It was one of my highlights that I've had on a racehorse. It was just an incredible feeling, and that was probably, I'd have to say, one of his best performances he's ever produced.
And this race was over at the 300 metre mark, Clint Hutchison.
Oh, look, the source continually makes me look foolish, but look, he's never shown that before. Like, even when he went to the Everest, we thought he was going to be vulnerable at the 1200, but mate, he was as strong as ever.
He's also gone from, you know, being the hunter to being the hunted. He's on the radar now, and he's the main target.
When you're doing the hunting, you got less pressure on you and less eyeballs watching you, but we don't mind that. It means we've got a very good chance of winning it.
We know what he can do. We know, we've seen some of the best of Nature Strip. So we almost expect that every time now. I mean, you ever look at his TJ Smith run, he has some serious horses behind him. We're talking like the best of the best.
But Nature Strip, he's a force of nature today. That's his 4th Group 1, brilliant.
And they can't get near him. He gives them absolute windburn.
He's getting to a stage where even when he is pressured, he's coming back that length until I signal him to go. So he's just getting better and better, and he's a gem to be a part of.
We are only 47 days away from the richest race on turf in the world, but who's counting?
Yeah, and it'll go quickly, won't it, Greg?
On Saturday, we sat back and watched Guitra overhaul the favourite Nature Strip.
And Guitra goes on to win the TAB Concorde. He dusted up the Everest favourite Nature Strip.
And breathed all new life in the Everest in that respect, because a lot of people thought it was a one-horse affair for a long time. But
He doesn't win every start.
Because that's the way Chris wants him. He doesn't want to cook him too early, and sometimes that's the way it has to be in sport. You know, you don't have to win everything, and there's a bigger prize. You know, we all understand that.
Horses don't just go into grand finals and win. So our challenge is to make sure Nature Strip is peaking for the Everest.
I think he's at his prime right now to show us why he is the world's best sprinter. When he is on song, there is not a horse in the world that can beat him.
Until that Everest is sitting beside us, we haven't done our job.
Nature Strip, that was just arrogant.
Breathtaking, Chris. He made some of the best sprinters in the world look really average. That was awesome. James McDonald, Chris Waller, what a lethal combination they are.
Nature Strip has given them a toweling, and that is the real Nature Strip.
When he turns up like that, there's no horse in the world who can beat him.
each and every week from now on, there's an important lead-up race going into the Everest.
So Nature Strip's taken control of the race now at the 300, and Nature Strip being tackled by Classique Legend, and Libertini's creeping into it. Nature Strip's gone now. What a great return to racing, Libertini.
Libertini beats Nature Strip, the TAB Everest, to be run here in 2 weeks' time. It has been thrown on its head.
That's pressure. We put that pressure on ourselves, but it's a pressure that has to be delivered on the biggest stage, and that's why a good horse will be competitive in Everest, but only a great horse will win one.